Right, so I have a question here. We've got a bank T account. Now, assets, we've got our required reserve. This is the amount the bank is supposed to keep when someone deposits their money. The bank is not supposed to use this money. These are the excess reserves. All right, excess reserves. This is what remains after the bank takes care of their required reserve. Then these excess reserves can use it for day-to-day running of operations of the bank, taking care of withdrawals, right? Loaning it out. Okay. And then here we have loans for 170,000. Then on our liability sides, we've got the demand deposit. This is the money which you can deposit into the bank and you can withdraw at any time. Okay. Anytime you can withdraw it. All right. So the first question is, what is the reserve requirement ratio? So to find the reserve requirement ratio, we're going to get our required reserve, right, and divide it by our demand deposit. Okay. All right. So we say 20,000 divided by 200,000. That gives us 0.1 times 100 gives us 10%. So the reserve requirement ratio is 10%. Okay, so meaning whenever someone deposits an amount of money, 10% of that money is kept by the bank. All right. Then the other 90% is what we call excess reserves, and the bank can use it for various things. So our reserve requirement ratio is 10%. Right. The next question is, what is the money multiplier? Right, the money multiplier is 1 over the required reserve. Right, so that's 1 divided by, so this 10% we just put it as 0.1 here. Right, so 1 divided by 0.1, you're going to get 10. Are we okay with that? Any questions or queries before we proceed further? All right, so it says, what happens to the reserves if there is a withdrawal of 8,000? All right, someone comes to withdraw 8,000. So this is what happens. Let's make space here. All right, so the withdraw 8,000. So our demand deposits, we're going to decrease them by 8,000. And that's 8,000. Right. Out of this 8,000, we have to see how much will come out from the excess reserves and how much will come out from the required reserves, right? Because these assets here, all right, they're used to take care of these liabilities. So the more people are withdrawing, They'll start with the excess reserves, all right? More people are withdrawing. They might even be forced to touch into the loans, all right? So we're going to see how much is going to come out from excess reserves and from their required reserves, because usually the loans are the last option to be touched, all right? The bank rarely wants to touch the loans first, all right? Because there's interest to be made on these loans, all right? So 8,000 is removed. We're going to remain with how much here? 200,000 minus 8,000. We're going to get 192,000. Right, is 192,000. All right, so from this 8,000, all right, the required reserve ratio is 10%. All right, 10%. So we just get 10% of 8,000. 10% of 8,000, that should be 800. So we say 0.1 times 8,000, 800, right? So the money reduces also, the required reserve will reduce by 800, right? And then, all right, to get to see how much is going to be removed from the excess reserves, 8,000 minus 800, 7,200. Right? So from the excess required reserve, 7,200 will be removed. So notice 7,200 and 800, the all total up to 8,000. Okay. 7,200 and 800, total up to 8,000. So our new balances that will remain. Let me just make a new T account with the new balances. So 20,000 minus 800, we're going to remain with how much here? That should be 19,000. 20,000 minus 800, 19,200. 19,200, right? And 10,000 minus 7,200 will get minus 7,200 will get 2,800, right? So this side on our demand deposits we have 190,000. Right, so both sides are supposed to balance. So 19,200 plus 2,800 plus 170,000. We're going to get 192,000. Right? Any questions? That's the effect of the withdrawal. Okay. Another way you can look at it is you would see that 19,200 is 10% of 192,000. Okay. And then if you subtract, yeah, 90,000 is 10% of 19,200. So they've balanced, and the question is asking us, what happens to the reserves if there is a withdrawal of 8,000? Okay. So originally our total reserves were 30,000, all right? They were 30,000, but now they've decreased to 22,000, all right? So our reserves would decrease by 8,000, okay? Our reserves would decrease by 8,000. Yes. Yes. Yes, it's macro. You're surprised that tier accounts. Remember in the assignment there was a tier account question. On which topic? This is money and banking. Oh, money and banking. Okay. Okay, so the reserves would decrease by 8,000. All right. Initially, the total reserves were 30,000, but now they're 22,000. So the reserves decreased by 8,000. Before I move any further, any questions? Okay, I didn't see the difference on how you're working around the listing from 8,000 because on the asset side. You didn't see the difference? So maybe it only decreased on the required reserve ratio or even the excess account. The difference is on the reserves, on the required reserve and the excess reserves. The loans remain untouched. The banks do not want to call in these loans, so they try as much as possible to leave them untouched. The change was just on the required reserve and the excess reserves. Here, what was subtracting here? 800 and 7,200. So the same 8,000 you withdraw from the other side is the same one you used to on the excess reserve. Yes. It was split up here. Let's the 800 part. Yes, it was split up here. It was split up into 800 and 7,200. Since the required reserve ratio is 10%, all right, so 10% of 8,000 is 800. Okay. Yes. And then the other 90%, okay, goes to the excess reserves. So the other 90% of 8,000 is 7,200. right? So the reserves, they decrease by 8,000. Then let's see the next question. Where's part 4 of the question? All right, how much will be left in the excess reserves after the withdrawal? 2,800. What is the effect of the withdrawal in the M1 money supply? There is no effect as the demand deposits are part M1. So there is no effect in the money supply. All right. Remember, the M1 money supplies talk about the money which is in circulation. All right. And we say that it includes demand deposits, currency and coins, and transfer checks. Right. So since this 8,000, which was withdrawn, came out from the demand deposits, right? This is already in our money supply. All right. This 200,000 is already in the money supply. So this 8,000, which we've withdrawn for use, also is part of the money supply. So there's no increase in the money supply. All right. There is no increase in the money supply. Okay. Unless you go to the bank and you deposit. All right. If you go and deposit this money again in the bank will keep the required reserve, then there will be new money created from that. But in this case, there is no effect as demand deposits are part of M1. If another customer comes to withdraw an amount that exceeds the excess reserves, assuming that no loans are called in, how will the bank cover its required reserves? Right? Getting money either the central bank or other commercial banks. Right? The loans are precious to the banks. That's why they do not want to touch these loans. Okay? They do not want to touch these loans. Right? So if no loans will be called in, they can get money either from the central bank or other commercial banks. Suppose a customer deposits 1,000, calculate the amount the bank can make in new loans. All right. Okay, so the customer deposits a 1,000. Okay. We'll put this effect in that T account, but I just want us to hone in on this transaction here. So I want us to hone in on this one here. All right. Customer deposits a 1,000. The required reserve ratio is 10%. Right. So the bank will keep 100 kwacha. Right. Then the other 90%, which is the excess reserves, the percentage of the excess reserves, can be used for loans. All right. So the amount the bank can make in new loans is 900. All right. The amount the bank can make in new loans is 900. All right. From this 1,000 which has been deposited. Okay. So we go to our tier accounts. Right. All right. So our this side is going to increase by 1,000. Right. Our required reserves will increase by 100. Right. And our excess reserves will increase by 900. Okay. So this 1,000 has been split up into 100 and 900. All right. Let's see our new balances. All right. So this will become 19,300. To become 2,800 plus 900 plus 900 becomes 3,700. And then here it becomes 193,000. And as you can see, 19,300 is 10% of this. So 193,000. Okay, so here 193,000. 27 plus 19, 3. You get 23,000 plus 170,000. You get 193,000. So it balances. Okay, it balances. Then what did the question say? So it says how the new loans the bank can make, it's 900. All right, the new loans 900. Then those part. What is the effect of the deposit in the money supply? All right. So now the money supply, right? This 900, right, which the bank can use as loans, all right? We're going to multiply it with the money multiplier to see the total amount of money that will be created in circulation, all right? So we say 900 times the money multiplier. The money multiplier we found it was money multiplier. Where is that? Money multiplier is 10, right? So 900 times 10 get 9,000. So the money supply will increase by 9,000, right? Therefore, the money supply will increase by 9,000, right? The money supply will increase by 9,000. And yeah, that is all for the question.